So this is one movie that was produced by Sam Raimi, and it's a horror movie. So I was, all in on this one. I love seeing horror movies and thriller movies, so this was right up my alley. And um, the the movie begins very strong, and you do not expect what's going to happen. Jeffrey Dean Morgan is kind of funny in this, and I was surprised by the tone of this movie because it had a lot of humor actually, and I was not expecting that. And because the look of the movie is very much like a horror, dull setting type of look, and then you have humor in it, especially when there's very much horrific things happening. And I was like, wow, that's a weird choice, but it didn't feel like it was bad. It did feel unusual, but it felt like it belonged in the movie because of his character. And the stuff that happens in this movie sometimes is not very top tier. Sometimes you get the feeling that it's a low budget, bad movie type of territory. It goes into that, but then it comes back out. So I would definitely recommend this because one thing I would have done differently is hide certain things, um, to create mystery more, but they didn't do that. And it depends on different kinds of audience, I guess, but for me I prefer when the horror element is very hidden until the end. But this is just all out horror, and I think you'll like it. The ending, however, is not as good as the rest of the movie, but it's still good. The I liked the movie, and again, I was not expecting it to have comedy or humor in it, but it did. And then there's also this new actress that plays the lead, the co-lead with Jeffrey Dean Morgan, and she was amazing in it. And I really liked her as well. So yeah, definitely check it
Yeah,
out.
the director of this was his first movie to direct,
Yeah.
directorial debut. So did you see some potential from this director that could be a really good director, or did they have a long way to go yet before they
No, no,
can
no.
call themselves a
I
director?
can definitely see him doing another movie which is way better than this one because this didn't feel like he was an amateur. It just there's some there's some choices that I would have done differently to create a more thrilling experience. That's all. But otherwise, it was
Mm,
really good, and I thought it was really scary as well in certain points. So I think he was
uh,
going for that. He wanted the. Um, I don't want to give it away, but I think he wanted a more prominent presence of the horror element. So that's the reason why it was so obvious in certain
mm.
scenes. But yeah, I think he did a pretty good job, and it definitely felt like a good movie, and I would definitely recommend.
Yeah, the I don't know if you watched the first trailer for it, but I thought the first trailer was pretty
Yes, the
good.
trailers
You
were
know, it's about
amazing.
this yeah, Jeffrey Dean Morgan's character kind of investigating this woman who has looks like she's the next coming of Christ or maybe Mary or something
Yes,
like that. And but from the trailers, like it presented that she's being possessed by maybe a devil.
yes,
Kind of like one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse. One of them is leading people through peace and kindness and stuff, but actually the horseman just wants people to follow him so he can convert them to kind of be evil and stuff like that. Just use them. That's what I kind of gathered from the trailer.
yes.
But like the director of this one is more of a writer. Done he's this new Snake Eyes movies that's coming soon. He's one of the writers for that.
Oh, interesting.
Charlie's Angel, Beauty and the Beast. He's had a weird kind of filmography in writing terms, but Yeah, I was only looking forward to this one because Jeffrey Dean Morgan was in it because of The Walking
Yeah.
Dead. Was he a standout? Like, if you were a
Oh
fan of
yeah,
The Walking
yeah.
Dead or you like Jeffrey Dean Morgan from Supernatural, would you definitely check this out for
Yeah,
him?
definitely. He was really good in this. Like he's the lead
Hmm.
in this movie. He's in every scene, and he's great. And also, I think the story was stronger. Like you mentioned, he's a writer, right? So yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense because the story definitely was strong because um, it had this past and present thing happening, and the connection was there, and the world building was good. The story surrounding the characters were good, and the twists um, were okay. But sometimes the direction just goes into the bad movie territory. Like, how the exposition, the obvious cliche things happening, right? So some of those things happen.
Hmm.
So that just brings the movie down a little bit.
Yeah. And like, was most of the comedy with Jeffrey Dean
Yes.
Morgan, or was it? Yeah, I'm guessing because with Negan, he's such a funny character and charismatic. I'm guessing they probably tried to use a
Yeah.
bit of that in this kind of movie. Because you remember that film with The Rock, Rampage? He shows up in it, and he's basically just playing Negan, like his one-liners and stuff like that. So I hope he was kind of his jokes were Negan, but his kind of his core character was something different. But like, would you think some of the was it scary or was it just freaky?
It was scary. For me, I enjoy the horror movies that don't show this creepy person or whatever, ghost or anything like that. Don't show that. And they keep hiding that, or just show us glimpses of that until the end. But in this, it was pretty much present throughout the movie. So the scare factor
Yeah.
kind of reduces for me, but for someone else it might not be that way because the design was really good and it was really scary and unique, the design of the demon.
Yeah, the trailer looked pretty cool. Anything cool about the cinematography
Yes,
or
it looked pretty
the
good.
score
Oh,
or anything
and
like that? Yeah,
there's I think he shot it with a fisheye lens, because some scenes where how the distortion happens at the end when you shoot with a GoPro or something. Some scenes were
yeah,
like that. So that was a different choice again from this director. So I do think that he does have potential, and he tried to be unique. And I haven't seen a very similar movie to this, so I wouldn't say that this is a ripoff of something else. So that's again a
yeah.
positive for the director, I guess.
Like this movie, it grossed 30 million worldwide, and it came out
Oh, really?
around Easter Sunday. So like,
That's
I
big
like
for a
this is
horror movie.
yeah. I think that like if there was no pandemic and it came out Easter Sunday around that time, no religious time, I think it would have done a lot more. I
Yep.
think it would have benefited from that because it's not out here until next week in cinemas. So I might wait till next week to watch it in cinemas. But I think it could have done pretty well because of Easter, the whole religious theme around Easter, and a movie that's around about Christ
Yeah.
and Mary and stuff like that. I think it could have done a lot better than 30 million. But I just look at the budget now, but like that's not bad, is it?
Yeah, it's pretty good. Like horror movies don't do that well, especially unknowns with no name directors and not a big Conjuring or Annabelle type movie. They
Yeah.
don't do that well.
Like okay, so the budget was 10 million and it made 30 million.
Nice.
Now I don't know what Jeffrey Dean Morgan's salary would be, but I wouldn't say it cost 30 million for him. I'd say he got a couple of million for it, of course. But I'd say they made back money on this and wasn't even released at full capacity or had some PVOD in some places now in America and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it probably did pretty well in the pandemic time. Probably would have did a lot more.
Maybe.
Yeah, I'll definitely check that out next week.
Yeah. Becca says,
Becca has a reaction.
yes. She says, saw this movie yesterday, very cool movie. Haven't been that freaked out in a while. See, this is why I said that it could be subjective because some people get scared. Well, by the
Yeah.
design or by seeing that. And for me, it kind of reduces that because now there's no mystery left. So yeah, I really like the design, and it was very unique. And